Hyper Light Drifter is, well, it's the kind of game that I've wanted for a long time. If you haven't heard of it, it's an action-adventure game developed by Heart Machine. It's another Kickstarter indie that picked up attention and support back in 2013, and after more years than the average gamer has patience for, it finally released. To sum up, the game is kinda like A Link to the Past's open adventuring, but combined with some more gruely arcadey combat. The game can also be considered similar to Fez, the game by Polytron, due to both sharing a rather calm nature, focus on discovery, and, oh yeah, Disaster Piece wrote the music for both of them. The game starts off with this amazing intro scene, but that's it. There's no other similar cutscenes in the rest of the game. Hyper Light Drifter takes care of the story right away because it isn't a priority over gameplay. In fact, what is given in the intro scene is very ambiguous, lacking dialogue and even being a little confusing. This is okay though. Heart Machine wants players to create their own plot based on what is ambiguously given. They want players to build their own story around the gameplay and general goal of the game, which the general goal is to activate 4 modules in the north, east, west, and south quadrants of the game's world. The plot is there for those interested in it, but Hyper Light Drifter keeps it minimal for those who just want to play the game with the basic goal given. The game is pixel art, but animations are fluid, and the art style and direction from the creator bursts with personality. Hyper Light Drifter overall is atmospheric, but dark, giving the game a unique setting that you don't find in too many games. Furthermore, each area is its own isolated environment, the north for example being a mountainous region. The areas all retain the dark atmosphere of the game, while their uniqueness from each other keeps the game feeling fresh as you explore. The music of Hyper Light Drifter complements and adds to the game's dark setting perfectly. The soundtrack never gets too peppy or bright, it stays in this kind of flat, bleak, yet soothing and peaceful tone, and it just really fits the game nicely. It can certainly be said that without Disaster Piece, the game would be very different, probably for the worse. The gameplay in Hyper Light Drifter is much like A Link to the Past, a fair combination of both combat and exploration. One of the main points of Hyper Light Drifter is your dash ability, which is an essential mechanic. Its primary use is allowing you to traverse across gaps, as well as dodge enemies. However, you can also chain dashes if you're able to get the rhythm down, which can then aid you in passageways with traps that require you to cross them very quickly. The combat is a clever balance between using your sword and guns. This clever balance is that guns have limited ammo that can only be refilled when you attack objects and enemies with your sword, enforcing the necessity of your sword instead of being able to get away with firing from a safe distance for the entire game. The reason I like this is refilling by attacking with your sword cuts out the middleman of an ammo item, keeping the game cleaner with less items. In fact, there's only one usable item in the entire game, and that's health kits. They're placed everywhere throughout the game, with some out in plain sight, while others are complexly hidden. Like I said, health kits are the only usable item, which cleans up the game by allowing you to remain single-focused on health kits and health kits only. In addition, checkpoints are prominent in Hyper Light Drifter, saving your progress practically every couple of minutes, giving you a helping hand against difficult enemy waves. Enemies themselves are where the game's difficulty comes into play, due to the various designs requiring different strategy and reflex, depending on the enemy. To add on to this, enemies tend to be in packs or waves, which can wear you down if you're out of health kits, or aren't even keeping a watchful eye on your health in the first place. Bosses are for the most part well designed. I say this because all of them are fun battles, but some of them feel a little bit more like dumb luck rather than actually overcoming their difficulty with strategy. I believe that a patch making some slight adjustments will be able to make every boss the best challenge possible. While I've discussed most things so far, I still haven't mentioned my favorite part of Hyper Light Drifter. This game is packed, and I mean packed with secrets, and you probably won't even realize it until a couple hours into the game. You'll find a couple of gear bits behind a corner here or there, but the majority of secrets are hidden in much more complex ways. The thing about secrets though is that there's a bit of a style to how they're hidden and how you go about finding them. As you play the game more and more, you'll start to develop this mindset based on this continuous style present in the game. And while I don't want to spoil too much, I will give a few examples. I found myself thinking the way to access something inaccessible would have a path leading to it later in the game, when in actuality, the solution was right in front of me. I also found that it's important to be suspicious of camera angles, as going further into what appears to be a corner can actually be another path. Lastly, a lot of hidden passageways will have context clues, exposing their existence. You'll eventually find yourself scaling every wall for them. All of Hyper Light Drifter's secrets follow similar patterns, with a few others that I'll save for you to discover. Secrets in general are a great joy to find. I haven't even finished the game, yet I still find myself excited when I find what I assumed was a dead end. The only negative point I have to make about secrets is that what some of these secrets are may not be as rewarding from a gameplay perspective as you'd think they should be. I won't spoil this category of secret, but I will say that my issue with it could be fixed with a hopefully easy to implement patch. Other than that though, secrets are the bulk of Hyper Light Drifter, and boy are they rewarding. Hyper Light Drifter is exactly what I wanted it to be when I first heard about it a few years ago. Well, actually, it's even more than what I wanted it to be, since I really wasn't expecting this much dedication to secrets and collectibles, but this aspect of the game ended up being my favorite. Out of all these different things to appreciate about Hyper Light Drifter, the art and music, the awesome combat, the densely compact amount of secrets, the best thing about Hyper Light Drifter is that it is overall extremely polished. The game was promised back in 2014, and it didn't come out until 2 years later. Art Machine spent these past 2 years to make it the best game possible, and the wait was definitely worth it. But hey, that's just my perspective.